Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Wright, and I'm coming to you today on behalf of the Charleston Regional Business Journal, the media company that serves high-level business executives in South Carolina's Low Country. Welcome to SCBIZtv and another edition of Coffee With. Today, I'm having coffee with Hollis Gunn, Senior Vice President and Trust Advisor at Regions Private Wealth Management, located here in Charleston. Hollis, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So before we kind of get into all the nuts and bolts of what we're going to discuss today, kind of tell me a little bit about Hollis. So where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school? Things like that.
Okay, yeah, so I grew up in eastern North Carolina and Greenville, so tobacco country.
Yep.
And went to high school there, D.H. Conley, Vikings, you know.
Go Vikings?
Yeah, but no, I ended up attending Campbell University in just south of Raleigh. And Campbell has an undergraduate degree in trust management. And so it was unique enough that my dad was very encouraging for me to do that, to take that course of study, because he felt like it would reduce the chances I'd be back home after college.
and off his payroll.
Yes, and he was right. And he was right. It was really an amazing program. And so ever since, I've just been in the trust world in one way or another. I've worked at 4 different banks in North Carolina and Atlanta for a period of time, and then here in Charleston. And so I have 5 children, which is always a talking point, point of discussion, 4 older boys, and then my youngest is a little girl with special needs.
And how are you taking care of those special needs with the programs here in Charleston?
Oh, they're great. You know, MUSC is really done a great job. Our pediatrician in Mount Pleasant has just been fabulous. And really everyone who's helped us take care of her needs. And it's one of those things where you kind of, you learn as you go. There's not a science specifically to each situation.
Right.
But I also married Superwoman, so that helps a lot too.
Right.
So.
And not knowing the hospital system and all the resources we have in Charleston until you actually need it. And then you go, wow, there's a lot here.
Right.
And, you know, MUSC and those folks, they get it.
Yeah, it's great. And they're working with the Greenwood Genetics Center more, and that's really encouraging. Greenwood Genetics Center is fabulous too.
Wow, great. All right, so let's talk about what it is that you do on a kind of a day in, day out basis. So the pandemic, familiar?
Yeah, heard about it, yeah.
So about a year ago, the markets kind of fell apart, and throughout the recovery, some sectors have reached new heights by the end of the year, and it continues. Are there lessons for investors that they needed to have stayed the course or should continue to stay the course?
So yes, there are a lot of lessons to learn from the last 18 months. You know, one is, are you invested in a way that allows you to sleep at night? And some people learned that they were not, and it was a painful lesson. Some folks had more of that long-term horizon in mind and knew they were investing for the long term. That's easier said than done, but there was some benefit to staying the course. Others, if they have more of a short-term need or short-term horizon that they're working with, it was a little bit harder to navigate and to be able to handle that type of volatility and just everything that was going on. So, you know, I remember back after the crisis in 2008, I kept hearing, and not everyone, but some saying, well, this just proves to us that diversification doesn't work. And I don't know, I could never understand why folks would say that, because when you look at a situation like we've had here recently, the diversification will help you at least maintain some foundation and give you the opportunity to recover in other ways than you maybe have been benefiting from before.
And you touched on a little bit on investors and their risk tolerance.
Yeah.
How have folks kind of reevaluated that, or are you walking through it with them as to how to reevaluate what that risk tolerance really is for them?
You know, and it's one of those things where you always hear, well, this is what it looks like on paper. Well, we got to see it for real this time. And so we're having lots of conversations. We do that, and typically in our industry, you're gonna see that review done every year anyway. But we have an ongoing conversation with our clients, and if there's something going on in their lives that increases their risk tolerance or decreases it, you know, we can adjust based on what their preferences are. But we do have, in the last 20 years or so, we've got a good case study as far as what does it mean to be able to tolerate a high amount of risk. Because here's what could happen, and are you going to be able to not watch the TV 24/7? Are you going to still be able to let your investments do what they've been doing and what the goals are long term?
And clearly that has more to do with where your investors are in their stage of life.
Sure.
Like if you've got folks that are considering retiring within the next 12 months, what steps should they consider and what kinds of things should they look for?
That's goes back to the time horizon that I mentioned. But what's been interesting though is to see those that were approaching retirement but weren't necessarily eager to just exit the markets, because if you look at what cash has done, it's not been very sexy. And so, but it also has been a burden, a hindrance for a lot of our folks that need that source of income that they would even get just on cash, but also on the fixed income side of their portfolios. So we've had a lot of retirees that have been okay staying in the market, but being conservative within that type of allocation. But you do have to look at, what are our needs going to be? And we do walk through that very deliberately with our clients. We spend a lot of time in the planning aspect of what we do because we want to make sure they're prepared for another situation. The market goes up and down, and now we're entering retirement. How much of this can you absorb? Not as much as before, or are you okay? And so I've had clients 90 years old that are 100% stocks, and I've had clients in their 30s that don't want to touch a stock. So it really is a case by case, and it's really interesting to see the dichotomy there.
So there's a new president in town, and let's talk about some of the proposed policies and how that might affect portfolios short and longer term.
Yeah, that's a dangerous question, but there's a lot that's still, we're not 100% sure what's going to get through Congress. We have more of an idea now of what the current president would like to try to push through. And it's really challenging. And in our role, we're going to be watching this really closely. Our research team that we have, they're keeping us abreast of these changes. You do have changes that are proposed related to capital gains taxes, possibly changing the way dividends are structured. Well, that has a major impact on portfolios and what you do and how you manage them. But also things like taking away the stepped up cost basis when you pass away, and increasing or reducing the estate tax exemption and increasing the estate tax. Yeah, those are long-term, mortality type considerations, but still very significant in the planning aspect of what our clients are looking to do. So the legislation or the changes in policy that are being considered, they're going to have both immediate impact, but also can affect the legacy that clients will want to leave. And we're trying to help find ways to navigate through that. But we really need to see what's going to firm up out of Congress in the new policies and the new tax laws.
Sure. So with all those economic uncertainties, presidential, social, all the things just kind of going on, and the stock market continues to be volatile, but that's kind of what it does.
Yep.
What are you telling some of your clients about the mixed messages out there and what to pay attention to and what maybe not pay attention to?
Yeah, there's plenty of information out there. You're right. And part of what we seek to do is to help sift through that and find what's most relevant to that client's situation. We don't have a shelved product that we put in front of our clients and say, if you do A, you're going to be good. If you do B, you're going to be good. We're looking at their situation and what's going on. What's the family dynamics? What are their cash needs 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now? So it's like a lot of things in life. Let's focus on what we can control. And we can control our spending habits. We can control what our risk tolerance is and making sure your advisor knows that. And having that open, ongoing communication, those are the things that we want to make sure we have in place so that as things change and ebb and flow, we can communicate with each other and make changes to the portfolio or to the situation as is most appropriate for the clients.
So at what point should one consider talking to a private wealth advisor? And what point in their life or what point in their financial life should they consider
Sure.
that?
You know, it's I'm a little biased, so I'd say right away in every situation. But no, when you hear private wealth, there's some connotation there, right?
Sure.
You know, and they're thinking, you know, millions and millions of dollars and that kind of thing. But it really depends on the overall aspects and the complexity of their situation, and how do they feel about handling what's going on. So one thing about working for a bank like Regions, we have the freedom to work with folks that aren't the ultra wealthy. That's not exclusively who we work with. Okay, we have clients that have as little as $500,000 in investments, but their situation is complex. They may own a business. They've got rental properties or whatever it might be. So it's when you start thinking about what's going to happen after I'm not able, willing to handle these things, or I die, you know, or you need some advice on a particular aspect of your investments, or if you just want to have someone who will provide those relationship services that everybody talks about, but is focused on what your needs are and what your family's needs are long term. We spend a lot of time talking about preserving legacy and protecting legacy. And there's a lot of different ways that you do that, and a lot of different factors that you have to think about. You know, taxes is just one of them, right? Family dynamics, planning and enjoying life through retirement, all these things, you know, we want to help our clients do in the most efficient way we can. And I think a lot of our colleagues in the industry have that in mind too.
Great. Hollis, thanks again for coming in. I really appreciate it. I want to thank Hollis Gunn from Regions Private Wealth Management for coming in today. And thanks again for watching SCBIZtv. I'm Mark Wright. Good day.